Welcome to Podcast, the Business of Dentistry podcast, brought to you by Practice Plan. Podcast delivers the best business advice, real-life stories, and practical hints and tips to make your practice a more profitable and sustainable business. And now, here's your host.
Hello and welcome to Practice Plan podcast. My name's Hazel Dockery and with me today is Tracy Pound of Maximity. You may well have heard the previous podcast that we did about cybersecurity, but in case you didn't, welcome again, Tracy. And why don't you just explain who you are and what your background is then?
Okay, thank you, Hazel. So I'm Tracy Pound. I'm the founder of a consultancy in the UK called Maximity Limited. And we help people become more efficient in their use of technology. So some of that's training, some of it's consultancy, some of it is systems implementation. But we get involved a lot in how people use technology within an organization to get value from the expense that they've gone to when it comes to technology. And people these days spend a lot of money on technology, and they should be seeing even more value coming back as a result of that expenditure. Not everybody sees that. And our mission is to help people to get to that point.
Brilliant. Right. Well, today we're talking about the subject of the moment, which is AI. Generally and also specifically in the context of dentistry. So we've seen a few things coming into the dental practice, haven't we? I mean, one of them in particular being chatbots. Now, we all come across chatbots in our daily lives, and sometimes they really annoy, and at other times they're great. So what's your take on chatbots in a dental practice?
Okay, so yeah, everybody's come across a chatbot that's bad. And I think they've been around for a number of years now. And chatbots in the early days were not great, but AI is being developed at such a fast rate of knots that chatbot technology is so far superior to what it was 2, 3 years ago, even probably a year ago, 6 months ago. And if you get it right with a chatbot, then you can give more enhanced customer experience. So, for example, if you've got a patient who's got a concern or a worry or a question, rather than having to take a call, which takes up a staff member and takes up their time,
Yeah.
if you get the database right, the language model that sits behind your AI tool, your chatbot, then your chatbot can take over and it can start answering some of those questions in a more intelligent way. And just the platforms themselves will help give a better customer experience in planning how you want that to work, what level of questions you want it to answer for your patients, whether you want a human interaction at the end of some of those calls. All of those considerations, if you think about it holistically and think about it from the perspective of if you were the patient, what would you like to see? What would you like to be told? How would you like to be spoken to? All of that you can build into a chatbot. Your language, your use of language, whether you take out terminology and make it speak that anybody can understand, all that kind of stuff is up to you now to be able to build into a chatbot. But if you build them right, then you'll get a much superior client experience, customer experience, because you're giving people control in the way in which they want to have control. And people sometimes, some people like to read things.
Yeah.
Some people like to speak to somebody, and some people like to experience something. And the more you can make your interactions multisensory, the more you'll appeal to a different and a wider audience at the time that suits them. So if they wake up in the middle of the night and they've got raging toothache, they know they're not going to be able to get hold of you on the phone. But if you've got something on a chatbot where they can interact and they can ask a question that gives them some sound advice, then you've helped them in a situation where they otherwise wouldn't have been able to get help, and you've moved them on a stage. So it's about thinking of how can you enhance your customer experience by using technology, and chatbots are a prime way of doing that off of a website.
So that in that case, because one of the big fears with AI is that they will overtake or make humans redundant. So in that sort of case, you wouldn't have someone on your the end of a phone in the middle of the night, would you? So
No,
basically, it's not replacing a human there, is it?
no, it's additive. I know there is a lot of talk about AI taking away human jobs. What is being said and talked about in the IT industry is that it's not so much that AI will replace people,
Mm.
but AI will enhance what people deliver in their businesses. So the difference actually will be adoption. Companies who adopt AI responsibly, strategically, with a strong framework are the types of company that are going to succeed much more so than companies that don't adopt AI. So it isn't so much it's going to take people's jobs, it's going to enhance what people can deliver to give better customer service, to give more insight, to take an organization forward to be more successful. And therefore, those types of companies will just outperform companies that are not adopting AI.
Mm. I mean, it's a tool, isn't it, really?
Yes,
AI. That's what
it
it
is. It's a tool. It's a means to an end. And all technology is. And technology is not at a point where it can do what we can do as human beings. But AI is rapidly developing. It's developing much more quickly than any technology I've seen in the last 10 or 20 years. It's the adoption, the development, the real world instances of use are so fast in sort of coming to market. It's unbelievable. And just in 6 months,
Yeah.
just from my perspective with my business, looking at where AI was 6 months ago and what it can do for me now, there's a massive change in it. It's hugely better than it was 6 months ago. And that rate of development is going to maintain. It's not going to slow down. There is such a lot of investment worldwide by tech companies in AI tools and architecture that it's just going to explode.
Mm.
And it's not going to take over in the way that some people think it is going to take over.
Mm.
But what it will do is it will give us the capability to be more efficient operationally and customer wise in
Mm.
what we do in any business, in any dental practice that there is.
I mean, obviously, I work in a marketing department, and marketing is something that, although they don't realize necessarily that that's what they're doing a lot of the time, that dental practices need to do. So, how is AI going to enhance that for them?
That is a great question, and it's also a very good starting point for people wanting to see what AI can deliver for them. Marketing is a very specialist area,
Mm.
and it's a difficult thing for many people to do because they are not marketeers.
Mm.
AI is brilliant at marketing. What you have to watch is the language and the tone of the materials that are produced
Yeah.
and make sure that it sounds like you and looks like you.
Mm.
So a lot of the text-based AI tools, as long as you have a paid for license, and I'll talk a little bit more about this after this section, but as long as you've got a paid for license, then tools like Copilot, for example,
Yeah.
can sit inside your business world. They sit inside your tenant and it can learn your tone by reading your emails, by reading your team's chats, by
Mm.
reading documents that you put together. And if you allow it to do that and you tell it to use your tone and your language when creating a marketing piece, then it will do that for you.
Mm.
The worst thing in the world is letting AI loose and say, for example, design me a marketing social media post that I can put up about an open day that we're having. And it will do it in
Yeah.
its language, which is often predominantly US based. So you get US
Yeah.
spelling and you get US words, which we don't use. We are quite different in our use of language. So the art is in prompting it correctly and saying to it, design me some marketing content for social media that uses my tone and my language based on my practice, which is this. And we are in the UK and our target market is serving these sorts of people. So the more
Yeah.
background you give it and the more
Yeah.
specific you are, the better the quality of the output that will come from it. And some of the AI tools are text-based and some of them are image-based.
Mm.
So, for example, Copilot and Claude are largely text-based. Claude is great for very technical stuff. Copilot is great because it will integrate with all of your Microsoft products
Yeah.
if you use them within your practice.
Yeah.
ChatGPT is much better at image-based results. So if you want to do social media posts that go on to Instagram, for example,
Mm.
where it's largely image, not text-based,
Mm.
then ChatGPT can help you to design imagery that suits your practice, your tone, the way you want to portray your business in a way that is in sync with what you do normally. But
Mm.
you need to give it that background to start with. But it's great for website content. It's great for brochures. It's great for flyers, and it's great for social media.
Mm.
So if you're looking to increase your social media presence, you could get it to design you an entire campaign.
Yeah.
So you could say, in the month of May, we want to promote this.
Yeah.
And I want a post each week that will be on Instagram. And this is my target audience. And this is what I would like to say. This is my website. So you can pick up my colors, my branding. Design me a campaign that uses my colors, my branding, my language to deliver this campaign over 4 weeks.
Mm.
And it will go off and it will do it for you. And I
Wow.
think the interesting thing, and what was a real light bulb just for me, was when I started using AI, I was just using it, I was feeding it one thing at a time.
Yeah.
Design me a post, design me a page, write me this. But it's so much more capable than that.
Mm.
So expanding your thought process out to a campaign, a period of time,
Yeah.
or if you're looking at an analytics, for example, with AI, I had used AI in Excel. So I use Excel a lot.
Right.
I'm a very sad individual, but I love Excel and I use it a lot. So I thought, I know, I'm going to put Copilot to the test and I'm going to see what I can get it to do. And I tried to get it to replicate something I knew I could do quite easily. And it did
Yeah.
a really poor job of it.
Mm.
And I thought, well, this is a waste of time. This is just not going to help me at all. So I left it. Several months later, and I see somebody doing something in Excel, and I think, oh, okay, I didn't realize you could do that. So the next day, I sat at my desk and I said, right, I have this data from my finance system, and it shows my income, it shows my expenditure, it shows my budget. Produce me a set of management accounts that shows me month by month, along with my budget, how I'm performing and give me differences. And I mean, the prompt was quite long. So
Yeah.
one thing to get used to is that if you want it to do something complex, you've got to give it quite a lot of detail. So
Yeah.
you have to set the scene. So I said, I'm the owner of a small consultancy. This is what we do, and this is where the data's from, and this is what I want to do with it. So my prompt was long, and
Mm.
I pressed go, went up, made myself a cup of tea, wandered around a little bit. 25 minutes later, so it's not always quick, but
No.
it's way quicker than it would have been for me to build it.
Yeah.
And I have a complete set of management accounts produced
Wow.
that gives
That.
me month by month across the whole year, a quarter view, a budget, actual, variance, all that's on a live data feed. So I
Mm.
don't have to do anything to recreate it each month. All I've got to do is update the data that sits in the background of it. And it literally did the whole lot for me. And
Wow.
I thought, that's quite clever.
Could you trust it though? Was it accurate?
So yes, that's easy in that instance to check. The
Yeah.
trust is a very good question. So thank you for raising that. So AI is not a fully developed tool. It's still quite immature. And I heard a lady speak last year at an event, and she said AI is a bit like a tiger. When it's young, it's like a little tiger cub, and it's very fluffy and it's very cute and it's got lovely little ears. As it grows up, it's got big fangs and it will eat you.
Yeah.
And AI is kind of like that. It's at that cute and fluffy stage, and it's not in its full-blown stage. So you beware of what you create, but also understand that it can get it wrong. So there's a term in the IT world called catastrophic failure.
Yeah.
And AI, like a child, will make things up if it doesn't know them.
Ah.
And it will do that. I will guarantee you it will do that. So one of the things that you need to do when you prompt is to tell it explicitly, do not assume and do not make anything up. If you don't know, don't make it up. And if
Right.
you build that into the prompt, it will tell you at the top when it starts to work, I will not make anything up. I will just get facts for this. But you do have to fact check. It is very, very important to fact check the data that it comes through with, because the text-based AI tools largely work on what are called LLMs. There are other methods, but the most common that we see are large language models, LLMs. And they are built from reading information that is freely available or has been pre-built into it. So it's either a result of what you've put into the LLM, or it's what it's learned from trawling the internet for other information. What people put on the internet is not always true.
No.
And it doesn't know that because it's
Yeah.
in its infancy. It's still cute and fluffy. It does not know the difference between right and wrong in many instances. And another point, if you're building things like chatbots, you have to build into it stop points because it doesn't know right from wrong. So you don't want your AI tool to go off and make something up. So you need to build into it, do not ever make something up. Use only these facts. If you can't find an answer to a question, do this. So you give it specific exit points so that it can fail nicely rather than just stop or not do what people expect. But you have to be in control of doing that. So fact checking anything on AI is an absolute imperative. You can't not do it. In my instance, it was
Yeah.
really easy because I knew what the outcome should be.
Yeah.
Because it's for financial figures. So I could check the formula, I could check the calculations, I could easily see that they were right. But if you've got something that is more word-based and it's based on giving advice and guidance, you
Yeah.
need to make sure that it can only take from the information that you've given it or known sources that you know are correct. And there's a term called jailbreaking,
Right.
which we've heard a lot about that with regard to mobile phones. You can jailbreak a mobile phone. But in AI terms, jailbreaking is where people purposely prompt the AI tool to get a wrong result, to make it do something it shouldn't do. So you
Right.
have to make sure that if somebody tried to jailbreak your AI, your chatbot, that they can't do it. And, you know, we've probably most people have heard of stories where AI has given people advice about how to commit suicide or how
Yeah.
to use a gun and things like that. That's because they've been able to prompt it in a way that takes the AI tool outside of its natural scope. So when you're
Right.
building chatbots and you're building AI agents, you need to make sure that people can't do that. So destructive testing is a really important part of building any AI tool. Get people who don't know it to feed information into it. Because what you want is when you build something like a chatbot, you'll build it in line with how you think. So when you test it, you'll test it from your perspective of how you think. Not
Yeah.
everybody thinks in the same way. Not
No.
everybody puts words or questions in the same way. So you want
Yeah.
a very diverse set of people to test systems like this, to see where it stops, where it fails, where it goes wrong, and never undertest. You absolutely cannot undertest a system. The more testing you do, the better your chatbot, your agent will be.
Chatbots are not the only way that a patient would access a practice, though, is it? I mean, traditionally we would ring up. So
Yes.
how does AI enhance that type of experience, or how does it help you get more information from your telephone system?
So there are two things wrapped up in that. Some telephone systems these days can record calls.
Mm,
If you've got a system that records the call, then you've got a transcript of that
yeah,
call.
yeah.
If you've got the right systems, then you can have an AI tool that can go through that transcript and put it into text
Mm,
that you can then ask to analyze the call.
mm,
So if you want to analyze things like the content of call, what do people most often ring up about,
yeah.
and what are their concerns, then you're analyzing the content of the call. And if you've got a system that can transcribe, then you've got that ability to be able to use AI to go through the transcriptions and come up with information about what type of people call, um, what are they calling about, how long are they on the phone for.
Mm,
The other side of it is the analytical data that comes out of most telephone systems these days.
yeah.
So, when did I get a phone call? How long did the phone call last for? Was it
Mm,
routed anywhere else? What day? What time? And if you can get that information, you can start to profile. Most often we get calls on a Monday morning between 8 and 9 o'clock,
yeah.
usually because it's the weekend and nobody's been here. So they've all kind of piled up and they're waiting to speak to somebody. So
Yeah.
when do you need to have more receptionists or people able to answer telephone calls to give that better customer service?
Yeah.
When is it quietest? So you don't need so many people.
Mm,
And so you can start to analyze, where are your stress points within a business? Where is it that customer service could be improved? Because you can analyze that volume of calls that are coming through.
mm,
What you can also use that for is, and you might have to have a little bit of human input into this, but if you have people who answer the telephone who can take the patient's patient number or their name,
mm.
then you can start to analyze how often are certain types of people ringing. And is it parents of young children? Is it more elderly patients? Then why are they ringing? What is it that they need from us that perhaps we could deliver in a different way that doesn't cause a bottleneck from a telephony point of view? So
Yeah.
it's about reducing operational stress points
Yeah.
by analyzing the data that you get out of a telephone system so that you can use it to become more efficient, more operationally better. That's a really bad term, but just to be better at what you do, give better customer service so that you're reducing the risk of complaint and you're increasing the likelihood of your patients referring you to somebody else to come to them. So it's all about efficiency. It's about customer service, but there's a lot of rich data that comes out of telephone systems. You just need to be able to use it.
Yeah. Now, data, that brings me on
Yes.
to something that I am quite twitchy about, as far as, because we're dealing with sensitive information, aren't we, when we're talking
Yes.
about patient data and stuff like that. Where do we stand with AI?
Very good question again. So AI, there are usually two variants of an AI tool at a basic level. There's a
Mm,
free version and there's a paid for version.
mm, yeah.
If you're going to use a free version, do not give it your customer data, your patient data. Do
Yeah.
not expose it, because most free AI tools will have something written into their T's and C's that say that they can use your data to help build their AI tool.
Yeah.
So if it's free, it's not safe.
Mm,
Use it for research, use it to bring you information for sure, but don't feed it anything that is sensitive data.
yeah.
If you have a paid for version, then your data is protected because it sits within the environment in which you've paid.
Mm,
So, for example, with Copilot, and I use Copilot because it's so widely known and it's
yeah.
it's part of the Microsoft suite, you will see a little shield in the
Mm,
top if you've got a paid for version.
yeah.
That shield means your data is protected inside your tenant and it
Mm,
cannot be used outside of that environment. So therefore it's safe to use because that data is not being shared elsewhere. But anything is free. it's free for a reason.
Mm.
And that reason is that it's insecure to use. I mean, the same, I know it's not AI, but the same goes for transfer tools. And, you know, a lot of people use WeTransfer to
Yeah.
share big files between different people. If you use the free version of that,
Mm.
then there is no security that sits around it.
Right.
So somebody could break into your upload and attach a nasty download with it so that the recipient then gets a virus. If you use the paid for version, they can't do it. It's protected, it's in a secure area. And the
Right.
same is true of AI. So if it's free, treat it as unsafe. Do not
Mm.
share patient data. Do not share internal practice data. Do not share anything sensitive. If it's paid for, it's inside a secured area.
If you actually, I mean, someone who didn't know, uploaded patient data to a free version, would that count as a data breach?
Yes, potentially. Yes.
Right. So it is
It's
that
serious.
serious. Yeah,
Yes.
it's that serious. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Right. And where do you see things going in the future? I mean, you said in last 6 months things have just gone at warp speed. Where do you see things going in the next say year?
I think that AI tools obviously will continue to develop and we'll see more adoption of AI. I don't personally see a wholesale change in the way that people do business yet.
Right.
Because it's too early and there are too many people who won't invest in AI or who don't see the need to invest in AI, and they
Mm.
will outweigh the early adopters who do go for it, because there's a bell curve for adoption. So,
Yeah.
you know, we are still in that early stage of that bell curve at the minute.
Yeah.
And whilst AI tools are being developed, sometimes with technology, it's a solution waiting for a problem.
Mm.
And so we've got to find more use cases for it, more instances where it has a real world application that can help people. Some of that is about how creative can people think,
Mm.
and some of it is just about where technology can actually add value. But we'll see it built more and more into everyday technology for people
Yeah.
to be able to use. But I still think it's probably 2 or 3 years away before we start to see more mass adoption. In technology, I find it very interesting because when you look at some of the big vendors who are developing this software,
Mm.
their view of how we all work is quite far removed from how we actually all work. You know, they think everybody uses technology every day and everybody is up to speed with it and everybody's proficient on it. But that is really, it's just not the case.
No, it's
And
not.
until you've got a mass change, then it can't get that kind of momentum to move forward. But vendors, software vendors particularly, push new technology very hard. And there is a huge push for AI to be adopted. But on the other side of that, AI needs compute power. So it needs data centers. And if anybody's ever tried to buy a laptop or a new piece of IT equipment recently, you will have seen it's way more expensive than it was 6 months ago. And the
Uh,
reason for that is AI, is because the data centers are being built at such a rapid rate to try and service all of the information and processing and requests and questions that AI is being asked. So the technology itself may be there, but the infrastructure to run that technology is not there yet. So we can't have mass adoption because we physically don't have data centers around the world that can deal with the volume and uptake that people think may happen with AI. Just physically can't do it. We don't have the infrastructure yet.
is there a moral issue with AI because of its voracious use of energy and water? Because that makes me feel a bit icky, I have to say.
Yes, there is. And I think that is something that needs to be talked about a lot more.
Mm.
And I think it's something that will even itself out too. So at the minute, you know, you can put into Chat GPT or Claude or just Google when it does the Ask Google thing. you can put any question you want in there. So people are just using it because they can,
Yeah.
and they don't see the impact physically on the world that sits behind it. But that's often what happens with technology. Because it's digital, people think that there's nothing physical to run it.
Mm.
But to run AI, you need a lot of data centers, you need a lot of memory, you need very, very fast processors to be able to deliver the answer to you from wherever it's coming from around the world. So I think there is a moral question that sits around that. And I think that is yet to be worked out where we stand with it. And that will be a geographic thing as much as anything as well. Because
Mm.
where do we build the data centers? Where can we make sure that we've got enough power around the world to be able to do it? And just to touch a little bit on kind of Iran,
Mm.
in the Middle East, that was being seen as the next generation, the forward future of data centers, and where we could build that infrastructure to support some of this processing that we need to do.
Right.
And of course, people have seen that and they've gone, right, if we take that down, we can control the economy digitally because we don't have the infrastructure there now.
Mm.
So, it's very interesting when you look at economically what's going on with regard to technology, data centers, and where they're being built around the world. And I think we do have a responsibility to not use AI just because we can.
Yeah.
It's a tool, and it can help us hugely to be more efficient, to have a better business, to be more successful. But if you're going to ask a question, we've got books, we've got other people. There are lots of things that you can do to learn. AI is not the only method of learning, although I think it will be probably the number one method of learning going forward. And I think it could change a lot in the world. You look at how schools and universities and colleges deliver education. They don't, they're technically not needed in a world of AI. You can have digital teaching, but the infrastructure in countries doesn't support that sort of thing. So you've got to put the sense back into it to say, well, it's not likely to happen because we've got this structure set up. But for sure, it is a very interesting area.
Well, that's fascinating. Thank you so much, Tracy. I've really enjoyed this conversation, and I'm sure other people will have done as well. Perhaps we can get you back in the next sort of like 6 months or so, and you can update us on what the latest is.
Oh, I'd love to. I'd love to. Thank you very much for your time. It's lovely to
No,
chat with you, Hazel.
and you. Thank you so much for joining us.